Get your straw hats and hose, 'cause we're getting agrarian. So, what exactly does agrarian mean? What does one have to do to become an agrarian? What do agrarians practice that is so different that they have their own term? Well, an agrarian is somebody who lives in an agrarian society. That seems pretty self-explanatory. An agrarian society is a society which relies on its agriculture to support their economy. Agrarian societies are generally referred to, or a synonym of, rural settlements. Kind of. They are rural settlements, but they're more different because rural settlements can have many different reliances on agriculture, where in agrarian societies there are a specific type where they only rely on the agriculture for their economy. Well, not only, but for the most part. Generally, most rural settlements fit into one or two categories. They either fit into being a clustered rural settlement or a dispersed rural settlement. Clustered rural settlements could also be called a nucleated village, because most of the farmland is located around a central village. This relates to the multiple nuclei model from Chapter 13 in the textbook. Each person living in a clustered rural settlement is allocated strips of land in surrounding fields, meaning they have small strips of land used for farming. However, these strips of land could be either owned, rented, or they could be, well, actually no, it's only two things it could be. Anyway, and if rented, lords can choose what the farmers grow, and in an agrarian society, if somebody can choose what is being grown, they could in fact have a crop which produces a lot of profit because of the way it's used in society, and therefore could make a lot of money for the agrarian society and boost the economy in itself. However, since everything is clustered together because it's called a clustered rural settlement for a reason, there is a lot more social interaction, but there are smaller fields because of the compaction, and that reduces the efficiency of the agriculture. Clustered rural settlements are generally characterized in one or two types. These two types are circular or linear. Linear rural settlements are generally built along something long, like a road or a river, and the fields extend behind all of the major buildings and homes in strips. Linear rural settlements are built like this to facilitate more communication. Most linear rural settlements are clustered together, and there are multiple examples of these types of settlements along the St. Lawrence River in Quebec. Since these settlements have the farm field behind the major structures, the space for crops is reduced because they don't have wider spaces. They have a lot longer strips that they would use to grow their crops. Secondly, circular rural settlements often have a central open space surrounded by buildings and structures. These types of settlements have an odd amount of crops because their fields aren't exactly square, meaning they don't have as much space for an even amount of crops per row of them. Another example of an agrarian society, as stated before, would be a dispersed rural settlement. A dispersed rural settlement is a settlement characterized by isolated farms rather than farms closer together. This allows for larger farm fields, which increases the efficiency of the fields and allows for a better economic structure based on agriculture. However, social communication is harder to perform with all the fields and separate houses further away from each other. But the reliance of agriculture in their economy and the larger farm fields allows agrarian societies to be ideally used as a dispersed rural settlement because they have more crops that they can grow at one time, which would help their economy.
Agrarian societies also incorporate some type of subsistence agriculture, as the amount of crop produced is more than enough for the settlement, so the extra crop is sold or stored. Agrarian societies were formed in Mesoamerica, near what is now Iraq. There are multiple advantages and disadvantages to an agrarian society. Here are a few. The ruling in an agrarian society is usually a hierarchy, so no one is confused about who the ruler is. They don't have to move around to get food because their food is grown right outside near their village. Unfortunately, because they are farmers, they depend on the weather for farming, and because of excess food, the settlement can face overpopulation. To recap, an agrarian society is a society which relies on its agriculture to support their economy. An agrarian society is a rural settlement. This can be one of two types, either dispersed or farther apart, where there's less communication but more land and the farms are more efficient, or clustered or close together, where there's more communication but the farms are less efficient. We hope you've learned lots of useful information regarding agrarians and agrarian society, and good luck on the AP test.